It cuts very easily and has a soft interior. It's a member of the sumac. That means it's either smooth sumac or poisonous sumac. Here's another member of the maple family, which has no commercial value. However, it is one that is indigenous to the northern hardwoods here where we live. It can be readily identified by the very strong white lines that are up and down the bark of this tree. And because of this striping effect, it is called the striped maple. Here we see two leaves from this particular tree. In addition to being called striped maple, some people refer to this as goosefoot maple, simply because, as you can see from the very large leaf, it is almost shaped like the foot of a goose. And a smaller one that has maintained its better shape over time is seen right here. Once again, this tree never gets very tall. This is another member of the birch family. You can see how the bark has a tendency to roll up, and this is the bark. You can see it is not quite as dark as is the black birch, and so this is one that is prized for starting fires if you're a Boy Scout. Even while this is wet in the rain, it will light with a match. And this tree is known as yellow birch. Yellow birch. It has little commercial value, but it is one of our northern hardwoods. Stop. Here's another example of a yellow birch. And if you look very closely at this tree, you can see some evidence of something else beside yellow birch. Right here you can see start of a cluster, and also right here you can see the evidence that here at Minnequaw Springs we can find evidence of gypsy moth.
Oak leaves. First one, white oak. They're alternate, simple, from 5 to 9 inches long, with from 5 to 9 rounded lobes, generally deeply cleft towards the mid-rim, dark green in color above, and frequently stay in the tree over winter. Red leaf, alternate, simple, from 5 to 9 inches long, from 4 to 6 inches wide, from 7 to 9 lobes. Lobes sparsely toothed, bristle-tipped, wide rounding clefts extending halfway to mid-rim. A mature, thin, dark, shining green in clove color above. The chestnut oak. Simple, alternate, thick, yellowish green color, somewhat color beneath, from 5 to 9 inches long, coarsely toothed in a chestnut, but teeth rounded without bristle tips. This is the pin oak. Similar to those of the scarlet oak, but generally smaller, fewer lobes with more narrow and deeper spaces between.
This plate consists of 4 maple trees. On the extreme right is hard maple or sugar maple. Notice the leaves are blunt across, but also can be 5 or 7 inches larger. Very common shape. Sugar maple. Red maple has a tendency to have red firing or red color, as you can see on the leaf stems of these red maples. It also is a little more rounded at the bottom of the leaf. The third maple here is sugar maple. Notice how deeply indented the maple leaf is with the sugar maple, with the silver maple, as compared back to this maple, the hard maple, and also the red maple. Silver is easily distinguished because of the deep serrations and lobes here. The fourth maple in this plate is striped maple or goosefoot maple. sometimes called goosefoot because of the large shaped goose print that the leaf will make. The stems on more mature bark than this will usually be green with very prominent white stripes in them. And so this plate gives us 4 common maples indigenous to this area: striped maple, silver maple, red maple, and hard or sugar maple. Let's see, I want that one. I want this one. I want this one. I don't have any of your 3 lobes, do I? Okay. This is sassafras. First of all, get a look at the very large, green, prominent terminal bud at the end of the twig. Of interest to note on a common sassafras are the shapes of the leaves. Here's one that looks like a left-handed mitten. This leaf, if it were complete, would have a center lobe with 2 outside small lobes. Here you can see another one that's shaped like a mitten. Another leaf here that's just like a straight, simple leaf. And when we look at them, you can see all the different types on this particular pattern here, on this particular twig. The twigs and the young wood are usually green in color, although this one in the fall of the year tends to be brown. A simple way to test for sassafras is to take a leaf, crumble it up, and from that, smell it. And once you get the smell of sassafras, it's easily identified. One of the interesting characteristics of sassafras is the fact that many native people will use it, the roots from it, and form sassafras tea. Beth opened a book for cucumber tree. This is a form of a magnolia tree or a cucumber tree. It gives off a rather pungent odor similar or something like a cucumber. This is the fall of the year, and so you can see how the fruits are clustered in small groups, and they are held by a little tiny filament back to the seed pod. Beth, read about the leaves and the twigs on a cucumber tree.
The leaves are alternate, simple, pointed at the tip from 4 to 10 inches long, entire margin. One of the most fewest forest trees in the state has an entire margin leaf. With the fruit.
Okay? When she said it was entire margin, it meant that it's entirely smooth with no indentations around the leaf. Okay? One more thing we want to do is look at the terminal bud. Look at the size and shape of this terminal bud. It's almost milky colored, and notice that it has an extra protrusion down here, almost like a hand, so that it has a thumb that sticks up like the rest of the terminal bud. If you notice, perhaps against the green background, you can see that better. Now read about the fruits, please.
A cone-like or cucumber-like single oval curve about 2.5 inches long, containing a large number of scarlet pea-like seeds, which dangle from the end of a short. White threads when ripe in early autumn.
Okay. Cucumber tree. This specimen is white pine. The needles are about 3 to 4 inches long, and it's most easily distinguished because when you take a cluster of them, they will have 5 needles in them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. White pine. Let's try it again, right here. Pull a cluster, 5 needles. White pine. Soft, delicate texture, uniform green shape. White pine. American beech, green leaves.
The leaves leaves on a beech tree are simple, alternate from 3 to 4 inches long, coarsely toothed on a margin, bristle-tipped and at maturity very thin, dull green in color, pale green beneath.
On the coarsely tip, you can see on this leaf here, it comes back into a point, back into a point, back into a point. Easily to identify, you rub your finger across the top of the leaf, and if it tends to be waxy and smooth, it's probably an American beech. This also has a very strong, uniform gray appearance on the bark, and in mature trees in the forest, it is very pronounced. They look silver gray, and from 100 yards away, you can always identify an American beech. That's it. This shrub is flowering dogwood. For trees, it has opposite leaves. Here you can see a pair of opposite leaves. Here, a pair of opposite leaves. Here, opposite leaves. It's one of those that answers the category mad horse, this being the D or the dogwood. All right? See the shape of your leaf? First of all, rounded and somewhat shaped like the bottom of an elm, where they may not come perfectly together at the bottom. The last giveaway feature in this, however, is a little fruit-like droop. And these are small yet. They'll develop up to the size of about 1/2 of an inch before they're mature. And you can see on this little vine here, or this little branch here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's probably about 50.
The pin oak, and it's kind of similar to the scarlet oak, but it's generally smaller and it's got fewer lobes. It's got more deeper spaces between the lobes, and it's smooth on both sides. Bark is dark reddish brown, it's shiny, slender, often like this, again, the scarlet oak. Fruit's an acorn, about 1/3 inch long. Bark is grayish brown. After many years, it gets like the red oak. The wood has the same uses as red oak, but it's less desirable because
this is an evergreen tree. The leaves are evergreen needles, which are clusters of 5. They are soft, flexible, and 3-sided. They are about 2.5 to 5 inches long. The colors of the needles are bluish green in appearance due to the whitish lines. This is the only 5-needle pine native to PA, Pennsylvania. The twigs are slender, flexible, and with rusty hairs when young, and finally smooth. The buds are egg-shaped, usually less than 1/2 inch long and grayish brown. The fruit is a cone, which is 5 inches to 8 inches long and about 1 inch thick. The bark on a young and the branches are greenish brown and smooth. Later they are dark, grooved, and scaly. The wood probably has more uses than that of any other species.
Maple, most common things you can notice about it is the stripes on its bark and the goose-like leaves. The leaves are simple and opposite, usually 5 to 6 inches long and 3-lobed and finely toothed. The twigs are light green, and sometimes in the older trees you can see the white stripes. The buds are reddish to bright red right bark is green and white, striped lengthwise. It's a small bushy tree, and
I'm going to do a shagbark hickory. As you can see, the limbs, the leaves on these are real big. They're shaped like a football, and if you can see right in here, the leaves are real fine too. Now another way you can tell about a shagbark hickory is the way the leaves are. Now these are compound alternate leaves. Like they're right across from each other. Now the bigger trees are easier to find because the bark is real loose on it, and you just grab a hold of it and take chunks off. The smaller trees, the limbs are real smooth. Now you can still tell by these leaves. Now the fruit they have is kind of like a nut here, like a gut. When it's smaller, it's green, and it's got a real smooth coating on it, like leathers. But when it's ripe, it looks something like this. It's small. It comes off in 4 pieces, like that, just splits. And
okay, this is a tulip tree. It's a simple alternate, and leaves get 4 to 6 inches in diameter. Generally 4-lobed, bright green, turning yellow in autumn. You can tell a leaf because it looks somewhat like a tulip. The twigs in the spring and summer, they are green, sometimes with purplish. During the winter, reddish brown, smooth, shiny. The buds are usually large and smooth. Fruit on it, at first it's green, but then it turns light brown when it's ripe in the autumn. It's a cone like 2.5 inches to 3 inches long, made up of winged seeds, which are greenish, yellow, tulip-like flowers in May or June.
This here is a red maple. As you can tell, there's 3 lobes and they're opposite leaves. They're generally about 4 inches in diameter with small teeth. The twigs are shiny green when young and becoming red with numerous light spots or leaf buds when they get older. For fruit, they have a pair of winged seeds suspended on a slim stem, reddish brown, and about 1 inch or less in length. The bark on a young tree are gray and smooth, and on older trees becoming darker with long scaly ridges. They're common in both swampy and dry sites.
Okay, the 2 trees I have today are sugar or hard maple and the silver maple. First tree I'm going to describe is the hard maple. The leaf comes at 5 lobed, serrations are very short. On the bark of a young tree is reddish brown to a light brown. The buds are brown, sharp pointed, narrowly cone shaped. On a silver maple, about 5 inches in diameter, and the leaf is silvery underneath, and about 5 lobed, and the serrations
Okay, the tree I'm going to explain to you today is the northern catalpa. The leaves, which are in holes of 3 or more, which you can see right in here, that are usually opposite, like right here or here. They're usually heart-shaped, as you can see with this leaf right here. They're usually 8 to 12 inches long and 6 to 8 inches wide. The margins, they usually have a margin entire or wavy. They are smooth above, like right on the top, and on the bottom, as you can see here, that there's a discoloration that feels fuzzy. The twigs are stout, yellowish brown, with no bud at the ends. Side buds are small, which I can point out right. No side buds. Large, nearly round shaped repressed leaf scars. Let's break one off and I'll show you the leaf scar. As you can see, that leaves quite a big margin, a white margin as a leaf scar. The fruit right here is a bean-like 8 to 18 inches long, narrow pod. It separates into 2 halves when ripe and hangs on tips of branches all winter. And many seeds are inside each of these, which each with long hairs on both ends. It flowers in July and arranged in terminal clusters about 8 inches long. Each showy flower white with yellow and purple spots, which are 2 to 3 inches in diameter. The general appearance of a catalpa tree is brown, or the bark is light brown, scaly, as you can tell right here, which is quite rough. Slightly furrowed on older trees. It's a medium to large size trees, so it usually averages in size. The native to this is the Mississippi Valley. It's usually planted for shade purposes in the United States, but its wood is durable and useful.
This is a quaking aspen tree. The leaves on the quaking aspen tree are simple in their ornament. They are usually 1 1/2 inch to 3 inches in diameter. They're light green and they're smooth on both sides. They're almost nearly circular. The margins have very fine teeth. The twigs on a quaking aspen tree are slender, reddish brown. They're usually smooth and shiny. The buds are sharp pointed, they're smooth, and they're often curved inward. The fruit are small, 1/4 of an inch capsule containing 10 to 12 seeds. They're spirally arranged on a 4-inch long drooping stalk, maturing in early summer. The bark is thin, it has a pale yellow-green color to silvery gray when peeling, eventually becoming dark brown or gray and rough. This tree is a small to medium-sized tree. The wood is usually used for paper pulp, and when the slightest breeze comes, the leaves tremble.
This is an eastern black walnut. is, for one thing, the leaves are compound, alternate, which means there's two leaves together, but they're separate right here in the twig. There's also 15 to 23 leaflets on each twig, and they're each 3 to 4 inches long. They're small toothed, which you probably can't tell from the camera. They are dark green yellow on the top and paler and hairy below. Also, the stalk right here is hairy too. The twigs are styled in orange, brown to dark brown, roughened by large leaf scars, easily broken. The buds are gray and about 1/6 inch long. The fruit is a round nut, which is 1 inch to 2 inches in diameter. The shell is rough and covered with a thick, almost smooth, green, spongy husk. The bark on an older tree is brown to dark black or gray, with narrow ridges. A large-sized tree is found locally on rich soils, mainly in the northern part of the state. Wood is good for...
Don't be reading that book yet.
This is an eastern hemlock. As you can see, the needles occur singly, spirally arranged on the twigs. The twigs are slender, rough, yellowish brown to grayish brown. Buds are egg-shaped, 1/16 inch long. The fruit is a cone, 3/4 inch long, egg-shaped, hangs singly from the tips of the twigs. Usually remains attached all winter after ripening in the fall. The bark on young trees are flaky and thick and roughly grooved when old, grayish brown to reddish brown. It's a large tree, long-lived, shade enduring. Wood is important for lumber.
This is sweet gum tree. This is the seed balls. They're long, 3 inches long sometimes. They're thread-like stalk. It hangs on the tree through the winter. These are the leaves here. There are 5 to 7 points on it. It's like a star. Twig here. The leaves, they come out in clusters of different leaves here. Come in clusters. This is the bud on it. Comes out at the end and when it gets done growing. Then it turns into a seed ball at the end and it hangs down and everything. The bark, it's sometimes orange and stuff, brown, different colors. The ball consists of a number of closed seeds. With maturity, the capsule split apart or made 1/2 inch long wing seeds to escape.
About. The first one, this large tree behind me, is what we traditionally call a sugar maple. You can see the leaf, and its basic shape is probably one of the simplest to identify. A straight, traditional shape. However, there's one interesting characteristic about the maple trees, and that is the fact that all their leaves are opposite. Now let me explain that with another example. Wherever you find leaves on one side of a branch, you'll find them on another. Right here.